Round the World Lit Audio. Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Episode 1. The Brahmin's Son, with the Samanas, Gautama. Full narration script. Channel intro. Welcome to Around the World Lit Audio, the greatest novels ever written, from every corner of the world, in English. New chapter every week. Free to listen. Series introduction. Today we begin a new book, Siddhartha, by Hermann Hesse, published in Germany in 1922. One of the most widely read spiritual novels of the 20th century, translated into more than 60 languages, read by more than 100 million people, assigned in universities and recommended in ashrams and found dog-eared on the bookshelves of people who do not usually read novels, but found this one and could not put it down. Hermann Hesse was a German-Swiss writer, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1946. He was born in 1877 to a family of missionaries and scholars with deep connections to India, and he spent his life in the productive tension between the European intellectual tradition and the Indian spiritual traditions that had surrounded him from childhood. Siddhartha was the direct result of this tension, a novel written in German, set in ancient India, following a fictional young man who walks beside and past the historical Buddha, on his own path toward enlightenment. This is not the story of the Buddha. Siddhartha is not the Buddha. Though he lives in the same time and the same landscape, Siddhartha is a man who meets the Buddha, recognizes the Buddha's completeness, and walks away, not because the Buddha is wrong, but because Siddhartha understands, in the moment of meeting, that enlightenment cannot be transmitted. It must be found, and the finding must be personal, specific, and cannot be borrowed from someone else's path, however perfect that path was. This is what the novel is about. Episode 1. The Brahmin's Son, with the Samanas, and Gautama. The Brahmin's Son, in the shade of the house, in the sunshine on the river bank, near the boats, in the shade of the willow forest, and in the shade of the fig tree, Siddhartha grew up, the handsome son of the Brahmin, the young falcon, together with his friend Govinda. He was everything that a young man of his birth and position should be. He was beautiful, in the way that ancient literature describes beauty, which is less about physical features than about the specific quality of someone, in whom the inner and the outer align, in whom the intelligence and the spirit show in the face and the bearing. He was learned. His father had taught him the sacred texts, the Vedas, the rituals of the Brahmin caste, the prayers and the ceremonies and the accumulated wisdom of a tradition that went back further than memory. He was loved by his father, by Govinda his friend, who would have followed him anywhere, by the daughters of the Brahmins who hoped he would choose one of them. And he was not satisfied. This is the first and most important thing about Siddhartha, the dissatisfaction, not of a person who has been denied things, but of a person who has been given everything that his world considered worth having, and finds that it does not reach the place inside him where the hunger is. He had performed the rituals. He had learned the texts. He had sat with his father, and the wise men of the community, and listened to their discussions about Brahman, the divine principle, the ground of being, the thing that underlies all things, and he had understood everything they said and felt, underneath the understanding that the discussion was not the thing itself. He thought, the wise men have taught me everything they know, but they themselves have not found the Atman. They themselves have not found peace. They themselves are searching with words for what cannot be reached by words. He thought, I must find it myself. He went to his father. He said, Father, I wish to go with the Samanas. I wish to become an ascetic. The Samanas were wandering monks, men who had given up everything, who owned nothing, who ate only what was given to them, who practiced extreme austerities as the means of burning away the self that stood between them and enlightenment. They were the opposite of the Brahmin life, not learning and ritual but deprivation and silence. His father said no. He said it with the specific patience of a father who loves his son, and does not want to say no, but also does not want to say yes. He said, think about this. You are a Brahmin's son. You have a future here. The Samanas' path is hard. Siddhartha said nothing. He stood where he was. His father left. He returned. Siddhartha stood where he was, his eyes on the floor, his hands quiet at his sides. His father said, You are still here. Siddhartha said, Yes. His father said, You will stand here all night if necessary. Siddhartha said, Yes. His father stood in silence for a long time. Then he said, You will do it anyway. When a son stands like this, there is nothing a father can say. Go, but come back to me. Siddhartha touched his father's feet. He left with Govinda at his side, because Govinda went wherever Siddhartha went, not out of weakness but out of the specific devotion of someone who loves a person, and trusts the direction they are moving in, even when the direction is uncertain. With the Samanas received them. They gave them the ascetics' robes, the single piece of cloth, the nothing that was everything an ascetic owned. They taught them the practices, the fasting, the breath control, the specific disciplines of a tradition that believed the self could be starved into transparency. that enough suffering could burn away the ego and leave the divine principle exposed. Siddhartha was good at it. He was very good at it, in the way that he was good at everything, which was completely and thoroughly. With the full application of a considerable intelligence and will, he fasted until the hunger was a background condition rather than an event. He sat in the postures for longer than the others could. He controlled his breath with the precision of a craftsman. He practiced the leaving of the self, the entering of animals and trees and stones, the dissolving of the specific Siddhartha into the general world. 3 years passed. At the end of 3 years, he sat with Govinda in the evening and said, "How long have we been here?" Govinda said, 3 years. Siddhartha said, "And are we closer?" Govinda said, "We have learned much." Siddhartha said, "Have we learned what we came to learn?" Govinda was quiet. Siddhartha said, "The oldest Samana has been doing this for 60 years, and he has not found it, or if he has found it, he has not been able to transmit it. What makes us think we will do better?" He said, "These practices teach us to leave the self temporarily, to enter the forest, to enter the animal, to enter the stone, but we always come back. The self is always there when we return. We are not dissolving it, we are only interrupting it." He said, "I think we have learned everything the Samanas can teach us, and I think it is not enough." Govinda said, "But then where do we go?" Siddhartha said, "I have heard there is a man in the grove of Jetavana, a man who has found what we are looking for, who has reached the other shore, and does not return from it. They call him the enlightened one." He said, "I want to meet him." Gautama. They found the Buddha in the grove of Jetavana, near the city of Savatthi. He was not difficult to find. He was where the stillness was, a specific quality of peace that surrounded him the way warmth surrounds a fire, perceptible at a distance, unmistakable when you approached. He was a man of middle age, with the quietness of someone who has nothing left to achieve and therefore nothing left to want and therefore nothing left to fear. Siddhartha looked at him. He had seen wise men. He had sat with his father and the Brahmin elders. He had lived 3 years with the Samanas. He had seen the discipline of men who had devoted their lives to the spiritual project. He had not seen this before. The Buddha walked, sat, ate, moved among his disciples with the specific quality of someone for whom every action is complete, not on the way to something else, not in preparation for something, not in the aftermath of something, but simply itself, whole, finished. Siddhartha felt the pull of it. He sat and listened to the Buddha teach. The teaching was the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, the structure of Buddhist practice, the diagnosis of the human condition, and the prescription for its treatment. The teaching was clear, logical, comprehensive, delivered with the specific authority of someone who has tested what they are saying against their own experience and found it true. Govinda was moved. He said to Siddhartha that evening, "I want to stay. I want to become his disciple. I think this is what we have been looking for." Siddhartha said, "I understand, and I think you may be right for yourself, but I cannot stay." Govinda said, "Why? Did you not hear what he said? Did you not feel the truth of it?" Siddhartha said, "I heard everything, and I felt it, but I noticed something in the teaching. The teaching says, the cause of suffering is craving. The way out of suffering is to follow the path. But the teaching does not explain how the Buddha himself arrived. It does not explain the moment of his enlightenment, the thing that happened under the Bodhi tree that the path, if followed, is supposed to recreate. You cannot learn that from a teaching. It was not reached by a teaching." He paused. He said, "The teaching is the best teaching I have heard, but I cannot walk someone else's path. The thing I am looking for can only be found on my own path, and my path is not the Buddha's path." He went to the Buddha himself. He said, with the directness of a young man who has decided to be honest even when honesty is impolite, "I admire you. I have seen many wise men, and I have never seen anyone who has truly found what they were looking for. You have. But I cannot become your disciple. I must find my own way." The Buddha looked at him. He said, "You are clever. You are very clever. Be careful that your cleverness does not become another obstacle." Siddhartha bowed. He left the grove. Govinda stayed. Siddhartha walked alone for the first time. He had left his father's house with Govinda. He had been with the Samanas with Govinda. He had come to the Buddha with Govinda. Now Govinda was behind him, becoming a Buddhist monk, following the path. And Siddhartha was alone, walking into a world he had never entered. Not the world of the Brahmin, not the world of the ascetic, not the world of the Buddhist monastery, but the ordinary world. The world of people who work and eat, and love and suffer without frameworks, without teachings, without the spiritual apparatus that he had spent his whole life inside. He felt something, not fear, or not only fear, something else. The specific feeling of a person who has just done something irreversible, and is standing on the other side of it, feeling the space that has opened. He felt free, and he felt, underneath the freedom, the question that the freedom made urgent. What now? Episode transition. You have reached the end of episode 1 of Siddhartha, by Hermann Hesse. Siddhartha has left his father, left the Samanas, left the Buddha, left Govinda. He is alone in the world for the first time, without a tradition, without a teacher, without a path. In episode 2, he enters the city, and finds, in the merchant Kamaswami and the courtesan Kamala, not enlightenment but its opposite, and discovers that the opposite is also necessary. Episode 2 is available next week. Subscribe to Around the World Lit Audio so you never miss a chapter. A new episode arrives every week.